Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I am going to talk to you about something that one, I am absolutely terrible at, and two, I never wanted to do, always hated, and yet now wish that I had been doing a lot sooner than now.
With every start, we are born again. Open your heart.
Please forgive the clicking in the background. Richard is on his computer doing school. The children are downstairs. The puppies are downstairs. So the clicking of his mouse is definitely a lot more quiet than all the rest of the chaos. So I want to talk to you real quick about something that I wish that I'd been doing an awful lot more of before now. In fact, I've never, ever, ever done this in my entire life. And now I'm completely regretting it. Journaling. I have never, ever wanted to journal. Nor have I ever thought that there was really a need for me to journal, because I just never really enjoyed it much. I think I had a diary when I was 11 and I wrote a few things in it. I drew a few things in it, and that was about it. Not much more than that. So I figured, why even bother? I've seen many, many people who love journaling as an adult. It's a great outlet. It's a wonderful way to track things. I just never saw the point for myself. I now see the point, and I'm afraid that I kind of missed the point. So Richard and I have been doing a lot of self-evaluation lately on our journey, especially. We were going back through some old pictures of us. This was Richard just before we started our carnivore journey. At this point in time, we were keto. Up to that point had been pretty oxalate heavy keto. It had been about 2 months since we started reducing the oxalates with the almond flour and the spinach, because he'd started throwing kidney stones, so we figured out what was going on and reduced the oxalates. But he was quite a bit lighter and thinner after keto. Well, now that we're carnivore, we've given it a good 2 years. We did 7 months of super strict all-in carnivore with just muscle meat and even organs. We laid off the dairy for several of those months, and we got rid of coffee for several of those months as well. No spices, even 1 month without salt as well. But we never gained all of the health benefits that we really hoped to be able to see doing a strict carnivore diet. We stuck to it, and we kept trying it, and we kept going. Well, now Richard is up 20 some odd pounds, and I am up about 15 pounds. I'm not saying that the scale has everything to do with success, but we haven't gained much else. We have not lost any inches. We've actually gained inches. We have not gained muscle. We have gained body fat. We have not gained health in many other ways. Richard's sleep apnea is starting to come back. His back and shoulder pain is starting to come back. His acid reflux is starting to come back. There's several things that we thought we would see more improvements with, and we haven't. Now, there's a lot to take into account, such as stress. We've done a lot in the last year and a half, honestly. We sold our house over in California. That was extremely stressful. The very first sale that we had fell through at the last minute. We were already in Wisconsin, living in our RV, when the sale of our house fell through. Not exactly a super happy situation, so we still had to pay for the mortgage, and then we still had to repost it for sale again. We had a fantastic realtor who worked with us and helped us through every step. If ever anyone needs a realtor in Fairfield, California, or Vacaville, California, let me know. I have one for you. Regardless, she was absolutely wonderful, took care of us to the best of her ability, and we were able to sell our house. But still stressful. Then of course, we won't even talk about living in an RV with 5 children for 3 months, and then 2 of the children left, and I still had 3 children living in an RV for another 3 months. Moving, buying a new house, moving again, getting all of our stuff delivered, you name it, it's been a little bit stressful. So I know that that has something to do with it as well. So a lot of you know that I've started doing some experiments with bringing in some more carbs. So far, it's not going very well, not even a little bit. I've tried honey. The next day, my brain cannot put two words together to form a sentence. It's bad. I'm having a hard time thinking coherently. I'm having a hard time communicating. I'm having a hard time just focusing. Tried fruit. Fruit makes me puff up, retain quite a bit of weight, and it's doing the same thing as the honey. It's gumming up my brain. I've tried yogurt. I think the yogurt is actually okay. I kind of backed off on the experiments because they were not making me feel better in any form or fashion, no matter what I tried. So I've honestly gone back down to pretty strong ketovore, and the only carbs I'm getting are from the dairy that I consume every day and the keto sweeteners that I'm using. I'm not adding anything on top of that. I'm gonna give it a couple of days to slow down. So what does all of this have to do with journaling? Well, I can honestly say I really, really wish that I had been keeping a journal of our entire journey. If I had, I would be able to look back in this journal and see exactly what we were doing that was working. Because what we're doing now really isn't working out the best for us. We do have Carb Manager on our phones, and we were able to go back and look at all of that data. The problem is we weren't always tracking every single day, and so we kind of have to sift through everything that's there. I also wish that I had had a record of how I was feeling back then, because there's times when I kind of go, was it really that bad? Was I really doing that? Do you remember? I can't really remember. We always say, I'll never forget. But guess what? We always forget. Let's be real. Unless you have a photographic memory. And if you do, congratulations, and I envy you. But I unfortunately do not. Those were all things that I never really wanted to remember because it was kind of a bad time. It was not the happy stuff. It was the rough stuff. And who wants to think back and remember that, right? Well, now I do. I want to look back and I want to see how far I've come. I want to look back and see where I think I was doing the best. So some of the pictures that we were looking at, here's one where I was thinner. This was right around the thinnest that I have ever been. About 14 pounds down from where I am right now. Well, I can look at the date stamp on the phone, and it was a few months ago, but I don't know what I was eating because at that point in time I wasn't tracking with Carb Manager. I can remember for now what was happening in our life to an extent, but I need to try to figure out what changed, because what I was doing was working and I was losing weight, and then something changed. Now I have to go back and I have to find what that something was, and I have to try to do it from my memory. Mine is a lot easier than Richard's. Richard's was 2020. January of 2020 was when he was actually doing the best. It's been a minute since then, whereas mine was just a few months ago. So mine's going to be easier to figure out. Thank goodness he kept track of all of his things, so we were at least able to determine that from what he had in Carb Manager. So my goal for February, I should just start now. I really don't want to, but I should just start now, is to start keeping a journal. I want to be able to look back at this time and go, this is when we realized things weren't working. This is what I did today. And we'll see if it gets better. One of the things that intimidated me the most about journaling was this concept that I had to have an entire page's worth every single day of detailed information. I don't think that's actually what I need to do. Maybe there will be a day or two where I do have that much, but at this point in time, anything is going to be better than nothing. Whether it's what symptoms I may be having for the day, or things that I noticed even about Richard or the kids, because they too are on their journey, and what's in my book could help one of them understand something as well. So that is the goal that I am going to try for, is to try to pick up journaling so that from this point forward in my journey, I'll be able to look back and see what's going on in real time, so to speak, because I really don't remember what we were doing, all that we were doing when Richard was at his best. I'd like to try to be able to recreate that time and see if we can get similar results without the oxalates, of course. So I want to encourage each of you to think about doing the same thing. Even if it's not your thing, it's not something you've ever really fancied doing for yourself, consider starting up a journal. Consider tracking to see where you're at. Something as simple as writing down your achievements one at a time as they come. Non-scale victories. Because sometimes when you look back over time and go, oh, I only lost 30 pounds in X amount of time, you go, well, it doesn't seem like it's really worth it, does it? A lot of the times we forget about the non-scale victories. That's what I really want to focus on, is getting back some of those non-scale victories that I know we've lost. And I want to write them down as we achieve them again, so that I can go back and see what I was doing to be able to re-accomplish that again. So what am I eating right now? Well, this was my macros for today. We have gone back to a little bit more keto, with the low oxalates always being part of it. Right now I'm actually drinking chocolate electrolytes because I am keeping some oxalates in so that I don't just dump them all at once. It seems to make it worse when I go off of all of the oxalates. The other day I actually had like crystals coming out on my back. And I was like, what's going on? And then I realized I hadn't eaten anything with oxalates in it for a few days. So I had a chocolate electrolyte. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep up on this for a little while. Also going back to some electrolytes, because now that I've gotten rid of the carbs, not feeling super well. Definitely getting headaches, things like that again. This eye wouldn't stop twitching the other day. My little experiment seems to have had some negative ramifications. I'll deal with it as it is. Sorry, Richard's chair keeps squeaking. So for breakfast, I had 3 eggs this morning, along with a bulletproof coffee. I got away from the bulletproof coffees for quite a while, but a friend of mine said that she's noticed that if she does the coconut or MCT oil in the morning with butter in her coffee, her brain just works better. My brain's kind of struggling a little bit now that I started adding those carbs in and then took them away again. So I figured it was worth a try. And I was doing the bulletproof coffee when I was actually at one of my lowest weights. So I decided to bring that in. I ate the 3 eggs with it so that I wasn't just drinking coffee without activating the proper hormones. I was chewing, because y'all know I'm not a big fan of those bulletproof coffees. So I had one of those with my eggs this morning. And then for lunch, I had 5.5 ounces of pork belly. And then 2.5 hours later, I finished my lunch because I had a bunch of Zoom calls that I had to do and I didn't have time to finish. So the second part of my lunch was a Philly cheesesteak sandwich on, yes, my PSMF bread. And that's one of the other things that I was doing. When I was doing better, I was actually paying attention to exactly what I was eating every day, and I was tracking my calories. A lot of people say that it is impossible for you to gain fat if you are eating a carnivore diet. I can tell you 100% it is possible. 100% possible. I and Richard have both gained fat from eating a carnivore diet. If you eat too much fuel, whether it be fat or carbs, your body will store the excess for future use. And when we eat too much fat, we store it for future use. We've done quite the experiment, and it's gone on for a while, and we are definitely living proof that it does happen. Now, we are living in Wisconsin. Today, the high was 9. I'm not going out and getting much exercise, and there's only so much that we've been doing in the house as well. So that is part of it. We need to start adding in more exercise than what we're doing now, but also drop the calories down. Eat some less fat. Back to when Richard was doing really well and I wasn't as lean as I am now. I was heavier then. I was not focusing on protein. So that's one of the other things that we are changing, is that we're trying to make sure that we hit our protein goal every single day and not setting it too high or too outlandishly out of reach. I'm at 113 grams of protein right now. He's going for 140. So that's what we're trying to focus on. Protein is a goal, and then fat and carbs can balance out the rest of it. I have my macros set to where I have 30 total grams of carbs in a day. There's a reason for that. I usually recommend under 20, but I have been finding that I do seem to feel a little bit better when I do have more keto safe carbs. And I don't usually count the carbs from eggs and dairy because I do consume a very small amount of dairy. And then the eggs, I'm not worried about the carbs in eggs, but unfortunately I can't turn off that feature in Carb Manager. It tracks what it wants to track. If you say total carbs, it counts every single one of them. So if I had the ability to turn off the eggs and the dairy, then I would, but I don't, so I can't, so I won't. So instead I've just upped it to 30 total grams of carbs, and I generally go in and calculate, okay, how much of this was eggs and how much of it was dairy, and I keep the rest of my carbs from my keto sweeteners down to 20 or less total grams of carbs, including vegetables, should I choose to consume them. So that was lunch. And then for dessert, because I don't really want to eat dinner, we decided to do a keto chow ice cream. For that, we just make it with water and a little bit of butter and then freeze it in the freezer for about an hour and a half until it starts to freeze around the outside. Then we take a spoon and we mix it all up together and we eat it. That was one thing that both of us were doing when we were doing better, and that was drinking a protein powder or some kind of meal replacement shake. I'm not saying that it's the best, but I'm saying that it can be used as a tool. And right now, we're looking forward to getting back to feeling better. So we are going to recreate the scenario in which we were doing better and see what happens when we control our food alone. And now that we've lived in our house for a year, you know, there's less stress from that, but we're just going to have to try to move forward one step at a time to see exactly what we can figure out, because there were definitely times along this journey that we were doing better than we are now, and we'd really like to get back to those. Fun for you. You get to come along and you get to watch and see. Please don't take this video as, oh, don't do carnivore, it's not worth it. That's not the case at all. I still believe that everyone should try at least 30, 60, 90 days of all-in carnivore if you can swing it at all. I think it's worth it on many, many levels. And then tweak and adjust from there. Thanks so much, guys, for checking in with us today, and we will see you on the way. Bye. I had a Philly steak, what's it called? Philly, Richard. He's not listening to me. I should throw something at him. What are the sandwiches called that I just did? The ones I just made today? Philly cheesesteak. I couldn't think of it. I'm calling you. So I just threw a book at him. You scared him.
So violent. So
violent. I'm sorry. Give him a heart attack. That wasn't from his cholesterol. Sorry. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna finish recording now, I swear.